the moment in which you decided just to leave the Republican Party was because you were going to lose to Marco Rubio?
No, it was because I couldn't be consistent with myself and my core beliefs and stay with a party that was so unfriendly toward the African-American president. I'll just go there. Because I was a Republican and I saw the activists and what they were doing, it was intolerable to me. As I told you before, my mother and father taught my three sisters and me to treat everybody well. We're all children of God. And I saw how the party, some of them, were treating the African-American president. And I couldn't take it anymore.
All right, that was former independent, also former Republican, now turncoat Democratic candidate for governor of Florida, that's Charlie Crist, describing his never-ending support for President Obama and, of course, his policies. But Crist's long history of palling around with the president is not likely to sit very well with the voters of the Sunshine State when they head to the polls this Tuesday. Well, because according to Real Clear Politics and their average, well, the president's approval rating in Florida is at a dismal 40%, while more than 54% disapprove of the job that he's doing. Ouch. Here now with more is the Florida Governor, Rick Scott. Governor, how are you?
Well, welcome to the great state of Florida. We're working our tail off. We're traveling the state on a bus, getting the vote out. If you have an absentee ballot, get it out and vote it. And if not, go to myflorida.com, myvoteflorida.com, and find out where your early voting location is and go vote.
All right, 5 days to Election Day. Probably, I think, one of the funniest ads that I've seen this election cycle is the ad that you're running against Governor Crist. He was the governor beforehand, and he's taken many positions on many issues, and you highlight that in this ad.
I'm running as a Republican, an independent.
I'm running as a Democrat.
Flippin' unbelievable.
I think what we need to do is go ahead and repeal this thing. I think it's been great.
Flippin' amazing.
And I think it is a decision that a woman should make. Charlie Crist is pro-life.
Flippin' incredible.
It's important that we pass a stimulus package.
Well, it endorsed it. I didn't even have a vote on the darn thing.
That's flippin' nuts.
Charlie Crist hasn't changed. I haven't changed.
All right, so the stimulus, then you got health care, then he's a Republican governor, a Democratic governor candidate, an independent at one point. Why is he even showing up in the polls at this point? I mean, it's kind of hard to figure him out.
Well, there's a big difference. They know exactly what I'm going to focus on. I ran in 2010 on jobs. The first election I'd ever been in. And I had a plan, 7 steps to 700,000 jobs. We've added 651,000 jobs. You know, when Charlie was governor, the state lost 832,000 jobs. So they know exactly where I stand. I have a 2020 plan. It's #1 for jobs, best education system, stop Charlie Crist's tuition increases, and give you $1 billion back in your taxes. That's what we're doing. We have a clear vision for the future of our state, and it's about families.
So when he was governor before you, he lost 832,000 jobs in the state. Since you've been governor, 600 and how many, 51,000 jobs have been created?
61. And Sean, we've got 261,000 job openings right now, and we announced 5,100 more job openings yesterday. So we're on a roll. We're heading in the right direction on jobs.
What was the deficit in the state of Florida when you took over as governor? What deficit did he leave you?
Sure. Well, here's what he did. Lost 832,000 jobs. 1.1 million families lost their homes. I grew up in a very poor family, lived in public housing. I know the importance of a job and a house. 44% of our homeowners were underwater on their mortgages. He borrowed $9 billion. He left me with a $3.6 billion budget deficit. We've now paid off $7.5 billion worth of debt. We have $1 billion surplus now. We've cut taxes 40 times. And you can get a job in our state, and we have a great education system. And Charlie cut education funding. He raised tuition on our students going to university. Charlie was never good for a Florida family.
All right, so when the bottom line in this election, when it comes down, that's the headline. That's the story, is that, okay, he has his record and you have yours. And what do you make of the polls being so tight?
Well, here's what I think about. I think about, you know, as long as everybody goes out and votes, gets those absentee ballots in, does early voting, shows up on Election Day, we are on a path to a big win because it's for your family. I tell people all the time, the election is not about Charlie or me. It's about your family. What do you want for your family? I grew up knowing jobs are important. My mom said, Rick, your chance of getting out of poverty is to get a great education and work your tail off. And that's what we're doing here. We are the American dream in Florida. What a big turnaround we've had.
All right. Thank you, Governor. We'll look forward 5 days to Election Day. Big race down here in the Sunshine State. Thanks for being with us.